Vince, on behalf of the board of directors, thank you so much for everything that you and the staff do for DVRC. Sometimes, the public, community supporters, sometimes even boards of directors don't exactly know the numbers, right? The number of calls, what had happened during COVID. Can you kind of run us through just a general overview of what has happened in the last 6 months?
It's going to be a little gruesome. The number of calls that Bernalillo County receives is over 20,000, and that's before COVID. Since COVID, DVRC will handle anywhere between 25 and 40 calls nominally during the day. And then at peak of the COVID, we were experiencing between 65 and 80 calls a day. That translates to over 15,000 calls that DVRC by itself will receive. I don't think it gives enough dimension to the community about how constantly we are called in the severity and the brutality of these instances. And when DVRC answers these calls, we have an opportunity to redirect them to our sister organizations or absorb them within our own organization. DVRC by ourselves will help over 6,000 victims this year. And the tragedy of our situation is that we are only able to provide services for less than half of the calls that we receive. To call this another epidemic would not be wrong. The tragedy of our community is that the domestic violence incidents are so continuous, so voluminous, and so brutal.
Can you talk about our staff for a little bit? Our directors, our advocates, our counseling. I'm going a little impromptu because I want people to see who are the people that are really I call them the second responders, right? We have our police, we have our firefighters, but talk about the staff, like the people that you see every day.
It's pretty amazing to watch this particular group of people work seamlessly and interdependently. DVRC has 4 operating units. We have advocacy, we have case management, we have counseling, and we also have an education department. And it fits in very squarely with what we concentrate on for intervention and prevention, recovery, and education.
We've been so lucky as a board to be volunteers of this great organization, and we've seen so many other communities of business people getting involved, or people that are civic organizations getting involved with DVRC. And I think the common thread between all of us is that, though we're involved in the community, we might be volunteering for other nonprofits, there's something really unique about DVRC. In your opinion, what is really unique about this organization?
I would say, without hesitation, where we are incredibly unique is that our advocates will go to crime scene. We're the only organization that does that as a partner to police enforcement. And it doesn't leave behind our other sister organizations, such as Rape Crisis and SANE and New Mexico Legal Aid. That's not to say that at all. But the bravery of these people, I cannot describe what it would take for any one of us to go onto a crime scene and do what our advocates do. DVRC is incredibly unique in our commitment to the community to be able to engage victims at their most vulnerable.
Talk about that, though, and I think that's the part that we see so many different nonprofits that talk about metrics of success, and it's very difficult to measure success in breaking the cycle of domestic violence, but I think we've successfully proven that metric. And can you explain a little bit about the return rate, or you use a certain term within DVRC?
Yeah, actually we measure off of victims returning to our service, or recidivism, and then post-surveillance. If we can engage a victim on the crime scene and bring him into the full scope of services for DVRC, that means they're receiving long-term care through case management and counseling. We have in the 90th percentile to remove a victim from their abuser permanently. We know our model works. We know it's successful. Our obligation at this point is to grow the model and to grow DVRC.
So that brings us to the most important part and part of the history behind the DVRC leadership event, engaging the rest of the community into this organization. So briefly describe, some of the things that we as a board, we as a or you as a staff, all of us within the DVRC umbrella, talk about the concern for funding.
DVRC is a relatively small organization. Our budget is a little over $1 million, but our ambition and our need for the community, it's essential that we grow. And we can't grow without our community partners. Our inspiration is to double the size of DVRC before the end of our fiscal year, and that means also doubling the size of our budget. The quantity of services that I described earlier is that if we help 6,000 victims, it means that we're not helping 6,000 others. And we don't know where they end up. That's to be honest. Our suspicions are confirmed on some cases that they will go back to their offenders because they have no other choice. We look at our community to say that nobody should be abused. Nobody should be hurt. Nobody should be attacked. Nobody should go to bed being afraid. It's so essential that our community understands this dynamic, but also understands that the growth of DVRC is essential for the community of Albuquerque to break the cycle of domestic violence permanently.
So right now our operating budget is roughly at about just shy of $1 million, and that was made roughly before the pandemic could have ever been a thing, right? And so obviously we're knowing that we have growth, and I'm proud of the milestones that the organization has made in terms of participating in the Albuquerque Domestic Violence Task Force with the mayor and city of Albuquerque, Rape Crisis Center, working with those sister organizations, SANE, Safe House, etc. But what do we as an organization need today to continue those relationships and continue serving our victims?
Immodestly, I say that we need additional funding. We need a lot more funding. If we're going to grow into the organization that really provides systemic change for Albuquerque, our funding needs, I won't say they're endless. It feels that way. But we do need to double the size of the organization, not just to meet what's happening right now in a COVID environment, but what was happening before. Our educational services, they need to grow. We need to understand the dynamics as a community of domestic violence to begin to do more to prevent it. And then once it happens, is that how to deliver more services more efficiently and with greater responsibility to the community.
So 3 things that people can do to donate include being a part of the Community Partnership Program, which is a new program for companies to participate in, a GoFundMe account, correct?
Correct.
And any other things I might be missing that if anybody wanted to donate or participate or get involved with DVRC?
There's a variety of channels that we're using. This event that recognizes leadership also recognizes their leadership to be ambassadors of DVRC, to bring this message to the community and to evoke the community's understanding and also their financial support for us to get larger. We participate in a lot of other organizations' strategic planning, including the city, including the county. We develop our own programs. One of them is the DVRC SAFE program, where restaurants and bars are beginning to recognize our logo and display it in their windows with the understanding that if you enter this bar or restaurant, that we are sensitive or they are sensitive to instances of domestic violence. And we deliver safe cards, which is a very quiet means of witnessing domestic violence and providing a means for contact. We're so proud of what we're doing in the community to not only be good ambassadors, for ourselves, but to participate in the common desire to end domestic violence.
So together, we can do so much more to end domestic violence in our community. And thank you, Vince, for not only your leadership, and to the staff for their endless support and their tireless amount of work to our victims. But we thank you. We thank you for joining us. To Michelle Otero for reading today and being our Poet Laureate. Thanks again to Dean Norris for his amazing presentation to our leadership event. And as always, thank you to our State Auditor of New Mexico, Brian Colon, for emceeing today's event. And thanks to our sponsors, both in kind and in their financial contributions as community partners to our organization. Congratulations to the Community Leader Awards, the Purple Ribbon Awards that have made significant contributions in breaking this cycle of domestic violence, and our other speakers. So thank you all. We hope that you would make a contribution to DVRC at dvrcnm.org.